Now, the racial controversy stirred up by Harvard professor Henry Louis Gates Jr. has focused the nation's attention for 5 full days now. Now, Professor Gates tried to use his arrest to make a big statement about America's persistent racism, but the audio recording of the 911 call that preceded his arrest, released by the Cambridge Police Department earlier today, well, that should put to rest any assertion like that. Listen for yourself.
Are they still in the house?
They're still in the house, I believe, yeah.
White, black, or Hispanic?
Well, there were 2 larger men. One looked kind of Hispanic, but I'm not really sure. And the other one entered, and I didn't see what he looked like at all. I just saw her from a distance, and this older woman was worried, thinking someone's breaking in someone's house, they've been barging in, and she interrupted me, and that's when I had noticed. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have noticed it at all, to be honest with you. So I was just calling because she was a concerned neighbor.
Meanwhile, old video of Professor Gates has, in fact, reemerged.
Without affirmative action, we would never have been able to integrate racist, historically white institutions in American society. And for me, for someone who has benefited so much from the opportunities of affirmative action, to stand at the gate and try to keep other black people out would be to be as hypocritical as Clarence Thomas. We're also trying to end what we used to call the one syndrome. You know, this place ain't big enough for more than one of us.
Now, Mr. Gates argued along the same lines just last week when he told the Root.com that, quote, there haven't been fundamental structural changes in America. The only people who truly live in a post-racial world in America all live in a very nice house on 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Now, even a cursory look at this case and the people involved in it tells you that if anybody was preoccupied by race or using it to make unfair judgments, it was Professor Gates and not the Cambridge Police Department. And joining me now to discuss this and more is Fox News contributor, author of the New York Times bestseller Catastrophe, Dick Morris. Dick, good to see you. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Well, I guess putting aside radical professors on college campuses, not a big surprise. I mean, we got Ward Churchill, we've got, Bill Ayers teaches still. But the idea that the president, admitting that he doesn't know the facts, coming out saying that the police acted stupidly, and then he said, well, this is a teachable moment, and then lecturing everybody, it's hurt him in the polls.
Oh, tremendously. We don't have any polls that are immediately after that, but he was tending down to 48 in Zogby, 49 in Rasmussen before this happened, and it's probably lower now. Everything this guy says is polled. That's why he keeps repeating the same words over and over again. This is an effort to end the deficit. This is to expand freedom of choice. All that stuff. These are all polled phrases. He was not polling this one. He may have spoken to his advisors, but they didn't poll it. And he shot this from the hip. And we had a rare chance to see the real Barack Obama. And a lot of people don't like what they saw.
Well, by what, 3 to 1, people said that what he did was wrong here. What do you think it means? We've learned a little bit more about Professor Gates. I mean, he did this this interview on C-SPAN, book notes.
I was struck by that 911 call you played, where there was no indication that she knew they were black.
Well, and
the woman making the call.
Well, I thought it was more importantly, it seemed like the officer was in complete control, that he wasn't angry, and it corroborated everything he had said in the police report. What do you make about Malcolm X in this interview? He said, my mother hated white people. He said, about Malcolm X, when he was talking about the white man was the devil, it was great.
Yeah.
That's what he said. What is that?
Well, there is this undercurrent that goes on. I remember back to the days before the election when you kept talking about Reverend Wright, and I said that Reverend Wright and Obama are 2 completely different people. Well, I think I was wrong. No. So now I'm not going to say that. I think that you really...
That's right. Anytime you want to come on the show and admit I was right, Dick, you're welcome to say.
No, you are.
But there is a connection, and I felt very strongly about this at the time, and I feel so today. That if you spend that amount of time, any of us can have a bad association, but after you realize somebody is really extreme, you disassociate from them. He never did that.
Never did that. Black police relationships is the only field in which there's a substantial difference between black and white perceptions. You don't have it on crime or on affirmative action or anything else, but you have it on police relations. The whites say there is no bias, the blacks say there is a bias. And it runs very, very deep in the black psyche that this is the case, particularly with the black middle class, because they feel the equal of whites, and they are, except when they're in the car, they feel the cop Trump is picking on them. And it's kind of like they always feel like they have to watch themselves because they're worried about that. And I think that runs so deep in psyche that I think Obama blurted it out.
Let's talk a little bit about these polls and political trends. The president now has his lowest presidential index on Rasmussen, -11 now. If you look at the politicians that are in trouble, we got Corzine, Patterson, two governors in New Jersey and New York, Chris Dodd, Harry Reid, Pelosi, boxers, at record low numbers. When you look at that, how do you interpret these trends?
Clearly, there has been a major trend in the last month, 2 months, but certainly the last month, away from Obama. Every single poll has him dropping, has the Democratic Party dropping, has health care reform dropping. And the interesting thing about this is we always liked Obama more than we liked his programs. Now he's using his popularity to sell his programs. The problem is that's lowering his popularity. And the lower his popularity gets, the less likely health care is to pass. So when he pushes health care, he's hurting health care because he's bringing down the ratings that he needs to get it passed.
But in that sense, is that why maybe this Gates issue is important? Because people gave him the benefit of the doubt. They said guys like Hannity are wrong. That just because he's not Reverend Wright. And now maybe they're going to see another side of him. Does that chip away at his personal popularity?
Yeah, it does a great deal, and it makes him suspect on all of his positions. But it's not so much that he's pro-black. It's that he's coming across as anti-police. And the real issue here is not respect for the black community, but respect for the men in uniform.
All right, now, but you talk about the biggest issue of our time. He's had trouble with health care. There seems to be emerging what they're calling not necessarily the government option. Now they're talking about a government co-op.
Yeah.
And they've changed the wording. I don't doubt it's been poll tested. Do you think that this, if they can find some revenue neutrality in this, do you think they have a chance of making this work?
Well, I'm reminded of a conversation I had with Hillary after health care reform was definitely dead. And I said, why don't you come out for a more limited bill, which ultimately became the Kennedy-Kassenbaum bill. And she said, no, we can't make this change. We either have to change everything or change nothing. She said it would be like squeezing a balloon. We'll solve one thing and the other will go crazy. And this kind, I said, I think I'm talking to a Marxist. And this is the same kind of mindset that these health care reform types have. Yeah. It has to be either all or nothing. And we point out in Catastrophe how terrible that approach will be. I think that what's going on right now is Hillary's health care proposal lost because of middle-class voters. His health care proposal is losing because of senior citizens. They are getting that this is creeping euthanasia, that essentially what you're saying is, no, there's a 2-year wait for this, you can't have this, you can't have that. But by the way, hospice care is available.
Well, but they're going to have mandatory advisory counseling sessions with the elderly about their, quote, options. I mean, it's almost eerie. Well, the one thing that changed, though, for the Clintons, and you were actively involved with this, you tried to move them to the center. We came up with this term that we all know so well, triangulation. Right. Do you think Barack Obama, and you, up to this point, you said you don't think he has it, do you think he will have the capacity to move to the right for political expediency, or does he adhere to his more radical views?
That's a question I don't know. My guess is that he's radical. My guess is he won't move. But you don't know. Yeah, that really is the question. And what's interesting is today...
If he moves, does it help him?
Well, yeah, it helps him, but his programs don't pass and the country is saved. There are 7 people who are worthy of note. They belong on a Hall of Fame. They are the 7 blue dog Democrats who are holding up health care. And if you're in their districts, write them and tell them you love them. John Barrow of Georgia, Bart Gordon of Tennessee, Barron Hill of Indiana, Jim Matheson of Utah, Charlie Melancon of Louisiana, Mike Ross of Arkansas, and Zach Space of Ohio. These men and women are the true patriots who are saving America's healthcare system, and they deserve your support.
If they stay strong.
Well, when you send them a letter saying that you want them,
stronger.
It'll help them stay strong.
All right, Dick. Thanks for being with us.
When they feel the heat, they see the light.
Congratulations on the book. Thanks.
Thank you.